So who we got here?
Edna.
John.
Now, how long have you two been together? And don't say just a week. Don't say you just met on Tinder.
33 years.
33.
Wow.
Well, one of the things, I didn't even like Poms and I ended up marrying one.
Well, my first husband died in 1978 and I was left with 6 children.
Wow.
So I was by myself for 12 years.
What was that like then? Because did they have single mother's pension or anything then?
No, I just had a widow's benefit and a small family allowance. It worked out at $186 a fortnight for me and 2 children. And that's what I managed on. And then I got a...
How did you possibly do that?
Well, I guess I did. And I'd mortgage and all that. And I never dreamt of going and asking for help. You know, I just did it. By that time, my 4 older children were working, so they were able to contribute.
Okay.
So they paid me a bit of board every week.
Yeah.
And then...
I haven't heard that word since I was a kid.
Yeah, well, my 4 older children paid me board.
Yeah.
And which... I just had to take it from them because I wouldn't have had enough to live on.
I did the same as my first job. That was because my family are Welsh. The board was the word.
And because Keith and I had emigrated from England and he'd paid into a union pension fund in England, I got a small pension from England for me and one of the children, and that money put them through a Christian school, because I took them out of state school because of what they were teaching them back then. And those 2 children now, the youngest one is 51 and Neil will be 56 next week. Oh, wow. My eldest son is 66, 64, 63, 62, 56.
Do your head in when you think you've got a child that's 66 years old?
66 years old, yes, Terry. Yeah, and you know, I'm so proud of them all because I was a single mum and the way they've all turned out, I mean, they're amazing. Terry's was a teacher. He studied the classics, Latin, Greek. He taught Latin in a Christian school in Sydney, and they've all done really well. I'm very proud of them all.
Cool. Yeah. And yourself, you've been married before?
Yes, I have. I have 4 children, and my first wife and I separated, and I tried to keep the marriage together, and after 6 years it finished. And interesting enough, my sister, who knew Edna selling Tupperware to keep her alive back in 72 or 1, she used to talk to me when I was on my own before I met her. You would love Edna, wouldn't you like to meet her for 2 years? And 2 years, and I said, no, I don't even like Poms, not interested. So I was living at Mount Gambier at the time, and anyhow, I had to come to Adelaide to see my daughter and son-in-law off they were flying into New Guinea. They were both in the bank. And she said to me, John, I'm having a dinner party at our home. Would you come? I've invited Edna. And I said, I paused, Anyhow, cut a long story short, we met that night and virtually, boom, fell in love.
Fell in love.
Wow.
And if he'd have asked me to marry him, I would have said yes. I would. I just knew. You see, it's all right to say this, but in 79, God told me I would be married again. He said I would. And...
How did he tell you? How did you hear it?
Well, I was listening to I was having a pity party. I was feeling very sorry for myself. I was ironing and the radio was on, but I wasn't really listening. Then all of a sudden this song pierced my heart. It was the Electric Light Orchestra singing, When You're Lonely and Misunderstood, hold on tight to your dreams. See, I had dreams that Keith and I would retire, and I felt they'd gone. And God said to me, no, hold on tight to those dreams. So I knew then that he had someone for me. But I had to wait till 1990. My children were all off my hands. They were all married. So I said to God, right, Lord, you promised me I would be married again. Now I believe it's my turn because my children are all settled.
Actually, she waved the finger to God and said, "Listen, mate,
Enough's enough."
enough." And so that was the end of it.
Yeah, I gave him a month.
And actually, quite interesting.
You gave him a month.
Yeah, because this was the 8th of May, 1990. My birthday was the 8th of June, and I said to him that I wanted to be in a committed relationship by my birthday. And I met John that Saturday night, the 12th of June, which was exactly 12 years from Keith dying.
Wow.
And we met. And then on the 8th of June, my birthday, he sent me a dozen red roses and said, in the light of day, I love you.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Well, I don't
Been
know.
together 33 years.
Actually, she softened my half up a bit. I was a bit tough out there, but anyhow, she worked on me. And the interesting thing was, though, that God's timing is probably pretty perfect. My youngest daughter left. She went to Longreach in Queensland. Oh, I'm going to turn my phone off. She got out of 12-year high school and she wanted to be a nanny on a station, and we were living in Mount Gabby at the time. So I drove her all the way from there, and this was early in January. Edna's youngest daughter was married then, and we were free. So the timing was right.
Perfect.
Just to let people know, how old are you?
I'm 87.
Well, I'm a toy boy. I'm younger.
Cradle snatcher here.
Yeah.
I'll be 85 in December. Mine's on the 8th of December, and hers is on the 8th.
Oh, you're both 8s?
8.
I'm an 8.
An 8th.
For March, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's enough of us anyhow.
Yeah. So previous then to COVID, before you had COVID, were you quite happy with your lives?
Oh, absolutely.
Still happy.
Still happy.
Yeah.
Just fighting.
Just fighting.
But still happy.
Yeah.
So what have you seen happen? Because everyone, Alan's talking like crazy, other people are talking. What happened when COVID hit? How come you didn't swallow the narrative?
Well, Edna and I'll share this. The first year, right from 2020, and I believe it was January that year that they announced to the world that COVID was sweeping the world. And a number of things happened in that year that gave us red flags right from the word go. Edna was in hospital on 2 occasions and nearly died, and she'll tell you that story. And we saw what happened in the hospitals. We also had one of my very dear cousins, her husband died, not from COVID, in March, and only 8 people could go to the funeral. Another red flag. Then my brother-in-law, who is still alive and he's nearly 90, he was placed in an aged care facility for, because he had started to get dementia and he had Parkinson's disease. And I helped my sister put him in middle of June that year. And I visited him pretty well every day, not every day, every week. And I had about, and I won't name it, about 4 confrontations with him over a period of time, because I was quite clear that all of this was directives. They were not law, and I was standing up against it. And it's funny how, and I noticed on your bus about courage, it took a while to grow in me, but I give all the glory to God for that. So we started to know right from the beginning, right through 2020, that things were not right, and we believed that the government had done a massive overreach. So by the end of 220, we knew we weren't going to be vaccinated, even though the vaccinations were rolled out in February.
They were aimed all at you.
Yeah, well, you see that. You see what happened when I was in hospital.
What was wrong with you?
Well, I had 2 major surgeries. I nearly died. I was.
What were they? Was your heart?
No. I had a benign tumour on my ovary, and I went in to have it removed on the 31st of January. And while I was there was 12 cysts attached, and removing them, they perforated my bowel. And I came home on the Monday and literally collapsed when I got here, and I was in so much pain, and John called the ambulance. To cut a long story short, I ended up in the ICU and 5 days, and had to have major surgery, and they removed my bowel. And
they removed your bowel?
I got a stoma. I don't know whether I can say that. And while I was in, I was really very ill. In fact,
because it was
it had burst, the abscess.
It infected.
Yeah.
And during that night, the Lord, I'll just tell you this, the Lord, I had a visitation from the Lord. He came to take me home, and I wanted to go with him. He took my hand, and I could feel the yearning in my voice. I want to go with him. But I said, my children are not ready, and I couldn't leave John. So he let me live.
Wow.
And because I'd been ill before I went in, I had no energy, I had no strength, I couldn't do much. And I used to quote a scripture from the Bible: they that wait upon the Lord will renew their strength. They will mount upon wings of eagles. They will run and not be weary. They will walk and faint not. So every night when I went to sleep, I used to quote that, and I would say, God, please renew my strength. And look, I could show you the photographs on my phone of then, and you know how my strength increased. And look at me today.
Yeah, you're amazing.
And God answered and heard my prayer.
Yeah.
Now, I was in the Royal Adelaide, then they removed me brought me out to Gumaraka. And
hang on, you started off at Calvary
in Elizabeth Vale. Then I went to the Royal Adelaide.
But they removed your whole bowel.
Yeah.
A fair
part of it. Yeah. And then I was in Gumaraka for 5 weeks.
That's the third hospital.
Third hospital. And then the last week before I was to come home, all this rumour and fear was sweeping the country of COVID. And John when John came in, he had to be...
I had to sign in and have my temperature taken then.
Yeah.
But masks, but then there was always this talk of a vaccination. And when I first came home, they would send a carer out to make sure everything was okay.
Yeah.
And I remember in April she came to see. She wouldn't come in the house. She wouldn't come off the scoria. She wouldn't come in. And John said to her, look, we can manage now. I can look after Edna now. So they didn't come anymore. But she wouldn't come in. She wouldn't come off the gravel.
What was the use of her coming in?
And what the deal was, though, see, Edna, we got in an aged care assistance in the hospital that we paid for because they wanted to send her home, and I said I don't want her for a year, and jokingly. So we dipped in our pocket and paid, and when she came home, and I mean I'm fit as pretty really fit, and I said no, I don't want any care, go and tick off, but we got this aged care, but it lapsed, and we went right through to the next year, and we could have got it, but I worked until I was 79 and a half, proud sort of Aussie.
What were you doing?
Well, I was a real estate stock agent for 24 years, and then that progressed me into real estate, and we end up owning our own business in Birdwood. In 93 we bought that 30 years ago, and basically the last 3 or 4 years I'd transferred it to people who I employed, lovely people, still own it. And then I continued to work just for about 3.5 years. And I had this big ego that I was going to retire at 80, but I pulled the pin at 79.5. Edna always said, I don't believe you, John. She said she wants a statutory declaration signed by JP.
Can I ask, you ever been a boxer?
No.
It's one about your nose.
No, that's just Edna belting me.
So to carry on with this story, that year of 2020, and there was this talk of a vaccination coming in, and straight away I said, well, I'm not having it. It hasn't been tried. It hasn't been tested enough. And I said, and I'm allergic.
This was before it came out.
This was before it came out. And I said, well, I'm not having the vaccine. I said, because I'm allergic to so much medication and I can't have a tetanus
Actually, you had a blood clot in the ICU too.
Yeah, well, and I had a blood clot in the ICU. Oh, that was a drama.
And so that was, part of the deal, wasn't it?
Yes.
Well, they're very dangerous, aren't they? Especially,
Yes.
Yeah, well, but of course there was no vaccination that they create them. And of course the public don't know that because there's two medias. There's your good media, righteous media, and there's all the woke narratives that I wouldn't trust as far as I can boot them. Anyhow, that's another story.
And so when I was, like I said, I had tubes and everything come, and they were looking for a vein in my arm to put another one in, and they couldn't find one. And the doctor said, well, what about that arm? It was this side of the bed. And I said to him, oh, no, you can't. That's my polio arm. Being English, that's my polio arm. And he said to me, well, what's wrong with your polio arm? And I knew he was from my part of the world, the way he said it. So he came round the bed, lifted up my gown, and my arm from there to there was black. It had a blood clot. And, it was all, racing about. They got this big sheet. I had to be in theatre conditions, so they put me under this big tarpaulin type sheet. And I heard the doctor say, we've got 10 minutes. And he quickly put this thing in my arm, and it was a coil in my neck here. Yeah. And so when this vaccine was coming out, and there was this talk that it could, even then, that it could cause blood
AstraZeneca, clot shot.
And so I said, well, I'm not having it, no way. Yeah. I've had this blood clot, I know what it is. So I said, no, I'm not. And I used to, when it's nice and warm, I go out in the garden down to the bottom and spend time with the Lord, pray to him and talk to him. And I said to the Lord about the injection, and he told me, no, don't have it. He said, no, don't have it. He said, I will look after you. And he has. And so...
Have you had COVID?
No. I'm 87. We've travelled just over Christmas from November to March, I think it was. We did over 12,000 kilometres. Oh, we went to Toowoomba. We went everywhere.
Well, I think jumping ahead, a friend of ours called Alan Novak.
Yes.
Part of the story about, we have faith in God, but part of our story about believing that we haven't got COVID, and I believe it's a massive thing that has been suppressed by all of the doctors that are under control of APRA. And Alan, what happened, I actually contacted the Freedom Rallies in Adelaide and said, why aren't you talking about early treatment? Because I'd done a lot of research. I'm the researcher, I dig into stuff. And I came to the conclusion about 6 weeks after, independently from Edna, I was a late arrival to say I'm not having this vaccine either, but it was about 6 weeks later. So anyhow, I knew that there was early treatment very early in the get-go, and I got all of the countries that administered ivermectin and supplements and hydroxychloroquine, and I could name them, not that it'd take too long here. So I had that knowledge, and so I contacted the Adelaide Freedom Rally and said, why aren't you talking about early treatment? I was putting them on notice. Anyhow, the boss of that, the lady who...
Kathy Scarborough?
Yes, Kathy Scarborough. I even put the phone number and she actually rang me. And by the way, she happened to know Edna's son. That's another story.
She knows Michael.
Yeah. Anyhow, that's another story. And she said, well, I can put you in touch with a bloke called Alan Novak, but I can't give you his phone number under the Freedom of Information Act. Here's his email. So I email Alan, and I put my phone number under the email. Within 24 hours, I'm talking to Alan. And we're on the same page about everything. And they've become unbelievable great friends. And Alan said, how old are you, John? And, oh, by the way, I must tell you this bit. Early in the piece, I said, are you a Yank, mate? And he said, don't you insult me, I'm a Canadian. Canadian. Anyhow, he said, how old are you and Edna? And I told him, and he said, do you know you're the most vulnerable age to catch COVID, and it could kill you? And my response to that was, well, we're not having the vaccinations. We'll die with COVID, not from being injected from it. And he said, oh, okay. So he rings a Dr. Ian Brighthope in Melbourne.
I know all these people.
Oh, well, he rings him, and he rings his back, and he said, do you know what your vitamin D level is? I said, no, I've got no idea. I've always trusted doctors. So I said, Edna, we got to have our vitamin D level taken. So Edna had hers taken. We had them taken at the same time. Hers came up at 61 parts in the blood or whatever that is, and mine came at 67. These doctors said, that's fine, it's good. The professionals from the integrative doctors said, no, it has to be between 120 to 150. 120 to 150. So Alan's wife has got a health food shop down at Moana, so he went and saw them, and we loaded up on all of these supplements, you know, well, I can't name them all.
Immune defence, vitamin D.
Yeah. And they said, you have to get sun on you. So lunatic John walks around in his underpants on the lawn for about 3 months. And
is that why there's no birds in your garden?
That's right. Well, you can see no one can see this. And anyhow, so and Edna she didn't go in underpants, but she went out in shorts and all of this. And then we had our vitamin D level taken, and I could not believe it. Edna's broke the glass ceiling that went from 61 to 162.
Wow.
In 3 months.
Wow.
And I said to Alan Novak, I'm going to beat her. There's no worry about that. And he said, oh, you won't beat 162. So I bet him a bottle of good wine, and mine come in at 160. She beat me by 2. But anyhow, the moral of the story, Michael, the moral of the story is we refuse to wear a mask. We won't have a rat test. We mix with people. We've travelled miles. We go even into hospital now, and everyone's masked up, and we refuse. And
what are you treated like when you do that?
Oh, they look at us and don't like us and what have you, but we just push back on it, and I suppose it's part of my nature. And Edna was always quieter and more reserved, and I think a bit's rubbed off on me. But there's also, you know, your fighting spirit has risen from her being so sick and what have you. So between us, and we know that it is a directive only. It's not law. And I mean, we've done a hell of a lot of things, you know, freedom rallies. We've gone to, you know, we're Crows members. We did a rally at the Adelaide Oval. We've taken the Liberal Party on. we've taken our doctors on, we've taken our churches on, and stood against it, and we don't relent.
Were you surprised by the churches?
Yes, very, very, very.
In fact, I don't want to use the word surprised. Were you disappointed?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, because we serve Almighty God, and surely what He says comes first.
Well, I remember in the marches in Melbourne, I was telling people Jesus went with the lepers, not just the vaccinated lepers.
Absolutely. And no, I was a bit horrified. We went to church, and of course they're all masked up. We're segregated. You could only two together, like John and I could sit together, but you couldn't sit with it. Couldn't shake hands. Couldn't have
two seats there and two over there.
Couldn't have a cup of tea afterwards. Couldn't have any fellowship.
Preached out of a mask.
So you couldn't see peace be with you anymore?
No. Couldn't give anybody a hug, shake their hand.
The yell at peace be with you. What?
Absolutely, Michael. And then I remember one day, like the masks, and I tried to wear it, and it just gave me a headache, fogged up my glasses, and I thought, this is ridiculous.
It's a muzzle.
So it is. So I went into a chemist shop, and I said to the chemist, I said, look, I said, this mask, I said, I don't like it. I said, I don't want to wear it because it isn't doing me any good. I said, it fogs up my glasses, gives me headache, and when I get home I feel terrible. Said, if you've got discomfort from it, you don't have to wear it. So this particular Sunday, it was a sharing time. So I got up on the platform to share. I didn't have it on.
What do you mean share? Can you explain what you mean?
Well, we used to share a testimony, something the Lord had done in your life. Yes. Or you had a word for the congregation or something to encourage.
Yeah, I understand.
And I had a word, and I got up on the platform and I said, and before anybody jumps on me because I haven't got a mask on, I'm not wearing one, and I've been in to see a pharmacist and he said I don't have to. So I said I'm not wearing it.
I don't think it was too legal for the
and
pharmacist.
I'm not wearing it anymore. And I was horrified that they were all, we had Marshall, and oh gosh. And to crown it all off though, they closed the church, and so they were streaming on your phone. Yeah. And then this particular Sunday morning in July, the pastor preached from his shed at the bottom of his garden, and we listened to it, and then at the end he said, but you've got to be obedient to the government and blah, 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 obedient. Well, Michael, I can tell you, I just was so angry. And I said to John, I'm going to have a shower. I'm going to go and have a shower. While I was in the shower, I was praying and thinking about this. And I thought, I'm going to send him an email. So I got out of the shower and got dressed, and I got my phone. And honestly, Michael, it was like the finger of God wrote this email, because I never took breath. It just flowed from my finger.
Do you remember what it said?
I've got a copy I can show you.
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, I came out and I said to John, can I read you something? And he said yes. So I read it to him and he went, wow, you've got courage. I said, well, I'm sending it, John. And then John said, well, before you send it, I would like to add a footnote. So John added something at the bottom.
In support.
Of me.
Can I just say this though, Ed? One of the big things that really upset me about this message was that the pastor actually said, when you looked at all of the directives on the COVID SA page, there was something about 13 or 14 directives, plus there was this big little part where we haven't got any cure, any medicines at this time, and we're working on it, which was BS. Absolute BS. And the last part down on this COVID page said the WHO, the World Health Organisation, does not recommend any medicines or whatever. And when he actually said that you can make a case scripturally why we have to be obedient to the government. And we actually then called for a meeting with the pastor and one of the 5 elders in our home, and I actually wrote a list of about 15 or 20, all of the adverse things, you know, like
myocarditis.
No, like suicide. You know, like people that and there was about 15 or 16 breakdown of marriages, only one at a funeral. Yeah. All of the awful people going through the hoop, losing their jobs, mandated out of vaccinations and so on. And I read all of these out to them, and then I looked him in the eye and said, do you believe that you can make a case? We nailed him. And he wouldn't answer me. I had to ask him 3 times.
Because they have, the argument they were using was the passage where they said, give unto God what is God, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. But my thing is, like, what's in my pocket is Caesar's.
That's right.
My body is a temple of God's. And I'm the priest of that temple. And so I get to say what goes in my body, not the government.
And one more thing. The other thing, though, is that we're quite clear, and there are many eminent people that are totally on this tram, that you be obedient to the government on all civic matters, but if it transgresses God's law, you're not obedient to the government, you're obedient to God, full stop.
Well, Jesus wasn't obedient to the government. That's Absolutely. Why they killed him.
Yeah, well, to me, Michael, the government are violating God's law every day. You think of the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt have no other God before me. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not murder. Thou shalt not swear falsely. You know, all these, and yet they were murdering babies in the womb. They legalised the government. They legalised same-sex marriage. They took the Bible out of schools. They stopped having prayer in schools. The children couldn't do the nativity at Christmas. They turned Easter into an egg, Christmas into a bottle, machines, money. And I thought to myself, there's no way am I obeying a government that themselves don't obey Almighty God. I'll pay my taxes, I'll watch the speed limit, I'll do everything that's lawful. But outside of that, no way. I will not bow my knee to Baal. I will not.
So in your twilight years, you've decided to become a domestic terrorist.
A domestic. No, do you know, Michael, you know what our children call us?
I love that.
They call us lunatic geriatric activists. That's our... And
lunatic geriatric LGAs.
And we wear it with a badge of honour. Because, Michael, we've 10 children between us, with 34 grandchildren, and with 30 great-grandchildren.
And bearing in mind they still love us. Yeah. I mean, our relationship overall, we haven't fallen out, but we speak the truth, and now they don't want to hear any truth, so you can't talk to them about any of this. I only 2 or 3 out of our 10 kids can. 2. So, but the other major things were...
Are you planning on having any more kids?
I don't think so, Michael.
the other major things, though, was... do you follow AFL footy?
No.
What the heck's the matter with you, mate?
I'm an artist, mate. I'm in the arts.
Okay. Well, anyhow, Edna and I follow the Adelaide...
Actually, just to say that, I was with this other... We were at a theatre once, and I'm in the straight arts, actually. I'm straight, but I'm in the arts. There's no art in my past. I'm Welsh, but I just happen to be an artist. And I was with these other guys, and someone said, "What's the footy?" And I was asking around, going, "So what's that footy thing?" And they're all going, "We're artists, mate."
Okay, fair enough. I'll forgive you. No, there's there's more than 2 other major things, but one is taking on the Liberal Party, because we were Liberal members, but also we've been members of the Adelaide Crows since '91. from the section, and we did a rally, and that's the story in itself.
A protest.
A protest, a protest. So, which one do you want to hear about first?
Do the protest of the Adelaide Crows.
Well, what actually happened was the year before not last year, the year before that, they brought in mandates, and Edna said to me, John, I believe we should cancel our tickets. And I'm talking about probably October, November of that year.
Yeah.
And the first match was on the 20th of March the following year at the Adelaide Oval. And bearing in mind it's called the Adelaide Oval Stadium. So the Adelaide Crows, Port Power, and they have other events. It was more than the Crows. It was a massive mandate to cut people out going unless you're jacked. So anyhow, this is funny how things happen. We went over, we've got family over at Port Lincoln and Tumby Bay, and we went over there and we were staying at Tumby Bay, Edna's older son, going down to the youngest son at Port Lincoln, and they said, oh, by the way, there's a freedom rally at Port Lincoln. So we went down to hear the freedom rally, and about the third or fourth speaker, they then announced, oh, by the way, we've got a guest speaker here, a bloke called Nick Takos, who has been just ripped off of the Adelaide Crows board, who had been a worker there, an employee for 14 years, and then he got on the board and he refused to have the jab and he was forced to resign. And have you spoken to him?
No, I did an interview with him, yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. Nick's a great bloke. Yeah, I didn't know him from Bar Burford's, but I knew that part of the story. So I went around and talked to him, and I said, Nick, you know, they've got a mandate. I reckon we should do a protest on the Adelaide Oval. That was in my mind. And he said, yeah, pretty good idea. And he had a few ex-footballers that he thought that he could get in line. And I kept talking to him in January, February maybe at the latest. And anyhow, he couldn't get them to come out of the foxhole, you know, and didn't want to and couldn't do anything. So it died down. We were getting, that would have been probably the last time I spoke to him was in January, because this match was 20th of March. So I said to Edna about 2 or 3 weeks out, a couple of weeks, wasn't it? Mm. And I said, would you be up for us, you and I, to do a rally, a protest on the Adelaide Oval? And she said, John, she's really fired up now, aren't you?
Yep.
Anyhow, she said, yeah, if you want to do it, I'm with you. Wow. So 1 week before, on the Sunday, before the match on the following Sunday, we belonged to the Freedom Rally at Gawler Barossa Valley Freedom Group.
Yeah.
So I said to myself, I know what I'll do. I'll see if I can speak there on that Sunday. So anyhow, they said, yeah, go on, John, get up and say what you want. So I got up and just talked, you know, naturally, and said, Edna and I are doing this, and, you know, if anyone wants to come and support us, that's fine. Well, we had no idea. Out of the blue come all of these people. This bloke come up and said, well, I've got a video and record it. Another fellow, I got a sound system that he carted in on a wheelbarrow, you know, one of those wheelbarrows. Another bloke was a reporter that was a freelance reporter, sort of semi-retired, and he said, well, I'm going to do a report on it. I had never met him. And all of these people come out of the woodwork. And I rang Nick, of course, and he said, well, I'll be there. So anyhow, you telling me you felt dry. I said, Edna, how do you feel about going down?
So we're driving along the North East Road, and we're about near the ABC building, and John said to me, how do you feel about this? And I said to him, I feel terrific. I said, I just feel so empowered. I said, I just know we're doing the right thing. I said, John, I've never felt so empowered in my life. And with that, my phone rang, and I answered it, and it was an ex-Crow.
We didn't know him.
we'd never met him, but we knew of him. We knew he played for the Crows, and he'd heard through Nick that we were doing this protest, and he rang up to encourage us. He said, look, I'd love to be there with you, but I can't. But he said, there's others like me who are with you, we're supporting you, and he said, we're really grateful for what you're doing. Good on you, he said. And so that made us feel even better, you know, Michael.
And in addition to that, I'd sent out an email about to 25 other people of like-minded that supported us in prayer, but also, you know, morally supported us. Yeah. So anyhow, we get there. This is a funny story. If you go to the Adelaide Crows, they got these 14 lineups and massive numbers of people in lines. Yeah. And about from here to, I don't know, say it's 10 or 15 metres, yeah, they search your bag, and also you have to give the credit of that you are vaccinated.
Yeah, vaccine passport.
Vaccine passport. And I said, Edna, we're going to get in and not get in. You know, we're going to get in, and then I'll tell them we don't want to go in, and see what the reaction is. So anyhow, I said, when you see this group here, I said, just shoot past. Don't worry, just keep walking. Don't stop. Anyhow, we didn't have a problem with that because they're checking that bag and you're supposed to be in the line, so we just walked past. We got in. You tell the story when you got in. And I
went up to where you put your phone on, you know, to do the QR code, you know, because the tickets were on my phone. I had them. So I got in, fine, valid thing. Then I did John, and the bloke said, come on, you're in, come in. And John, you carry on now.
Anyhow, this bloke, he's all masked up, big burly bloke. He's one of the officials. And he was waiting for me to come in. I looked him in the eye and I said, listen, mate, we're not vaccinated. Well, hell, he went off like a firecracker. And he said, you cannot come in. You're not vaccinated. And he had his little phone. He called someone else up, and another bloke come around. And I mean, we could have got in, but we didn't want to get in. We want to get in to prove that we did. So this bloke also was giving me the, rundown. And I just said to them both, well, look, don't get too upset. We're just going around the back, just at the back of there where there's a cafe, right close where we were. And we're doing a protest rally. I've got a number of people there. The protest rally just walked off. So anyhow, when we got there and we got all of this set up, and this video we still got, and it's Wake Up at John and Edna's. If you Google Rumble, if you just put in John and Edna's Wake Up Adelaide, it just comes up.
Yeah, you can find it. Yeah.
John and Edna's Wake Up Rumble. And it goes for 20 minutes. The first 4 minutes is music because the guy that had the sound stuff, he forgot something. He had to bolt across the river Torrens and get some stuff and fix it. So there's 4 minutes of just music. So anyhow, away we went, and I had all of this script written out, the letter that I had, and I read all of that, and I also had a malfeasance document of 6 pages, where you breach this code, you breach that, you breach all of these things. And even the Nuremberg Code was in this 6-page document. Yeah. And I got to the start to read that, and this big whirly bloke with a mask, different bloke, approaches me, and bearing in mind we're right at the back of the building, and he says, get over there where that, about 10 metres away.
On the side.
Move away from here. That's what he said. And I looked at him and I said, no, mate, I'm not. I'm staying right here. I've been a member of the Adelaide Crows for 31 years, or whatever it was, 31 years. I'm doing it here, and I just started reading. And so I read all of the document out, and then all of a sudden these 6 cops come towards us. Really, 6 cops. But I got to go back one step. Nick Takos, unbeknownst to me, I didn't even know Stuart Lindsay. You heard about Stuart Lindsay? Yeah. He brings a retired judge with him. I didn't know he was coming. Stuart brings him. And anyhow, after, we delivered all of this, Stuart Lindsay gets on the microphone, and then he started calling out things that, from a legal point of view. Yeah. And, talked about all of this from a legal aspect and so on. And he walks over towards these cops and called them masked up zombies. So anyhow, that was their protest at the Adelaide Crown.
And he said to these policemen, he said, look, why don't you masked up zombies, he said, why don't you get a few balls and go and do what this old guy's doing, pointing to John. I'm sorry I said that, but that's what...
Well, you've got to say it as it is.
Stuart Lindsay said to these coppers, and he said, the... fellow that's in charge of the police, he brought in all these mandates, you've all had to have a jab, and he said, now all that's finished and you had to be vaccinated for nothing. And he kept saying, John and Edna got in, they got in. They got in. And they're not vaccinated. I know he really let them have it. It was fantastic, Michael. Truly it was. Yeah, it was. And there were quite a few people came and supported us, wasn't there?
There was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard that they dropped the mandates.
What actually happened, I mean, we can't say we take the credit of it, but it was funny. Yeah. Within 2.5 weeks... I got to say this because this is important. The independent reporter gave a wonderful write-up about it, and he used a lot of legal stuff in his report. And we actually posted both these documents independently to the Adelaide Football Club and the Adelaide Oval Management Authority, and also his report was posted independent to both.
Yeah.
So that carried weight too from this independent reporter, and he did a marvellous job. So that pressure, I don't know whether it did, but anyhow they dropped the mandates within 2.5 weeks.
Right.
So people praise us about it, but we don't take the credit, but, well, we might, but who knows?
Well, just the fact that you stood up at your age to what has been a propaganda tsunami.
Absolutely.
Well, the thing is, though, we had credibility because we've been going to the Adelaide Crows for 31 years. Mm. Now, the Adelaide Oval was only revamped, a few years back. Mm. But the point is, we'd gone to many events there, and we had credibility. We weren't, just someone saying something.
So what's it been like since then with your stance? Is it people leaving you alone, or you've been going to other rallies?
But people won't challenge us because we're too much of a freedom fighter. Going to rallies, I did write this bit down. I better just read what I said here. We've been to, I add them all up, 21 freedom rallies.
Wow.
Throughout the state, all over the joint.
Wow.
And 13 meetings.
Yeah.
Like a meeting is like the one that Esteem, Malhotra, Nick Takos, and there was 800 at that. Mm. And the problem is, Michael, this is the big problem. We have a lot of alternative media outlets like yourself and a myriad of others. Mm. And I say this, when you got to fight against the state government, the federal government, the state departments of health, all of the doctors that have been suppressed under APRA, all of the pharmacists and the mainstream media. See, people blame the mainstream media, but I blame those 6 entities. They all live in an echo chamber and they all build out the same rubbish. And our alternative media, you can't get a balance. And I'll finish on this point on this. And I would say this about most church members in our church. The word is deceived. They have been absolutely deceived because they listen to those 5 entities and it's a massive deception. That's very biblical too, by the way.
I feel the country's been violated.
It has.
So spiritually, physically, you know, the people, I don't know, so many people have didn't want to take it. Only young guy with us today who has done an interview, but he's anonymous, he just audio, but he's double jabbed and got really ill and he's really angry, but he just doesn't have your courage yet to put a face to his name.
Well, I believe that a spirit of fear was sown and everybody was terrified because the mantra was, this jab, get the vaccination and you'll live. If you don't have it, you'll die. Yeah. That was it. Everybody was terrified. And what it caused was fear among people. It divided people. Yeah. It divided families. Yeah. And I mean, our 10 children, out of them, we've only two of mine that we can sort of talk to. Oh, John's youngest son, only son, we can talk a bit to him. But the others just don't want to know. And it's become a dirty word. And it has caused...
silent division.
Silent. Nothing else. You know, we're still...
Elephants in the room.
Yeah.
Silent division.
Silent division.
I mean, we love them and they love us and we will always stand. But if you stand for, you know, your belief of truth without compromise... Yeah. That's what you have to do, but you still have to love people.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, you know, I've been saying really from the beginning in Melbourne, in the marches there, that the real virus is fear. Fear is corrupted people's ability to love, corrupted priests' ability to do their job, doctors, everyone's been corrupted by fear. And in amongst us, some people don't have that, and that's why we say on the bus, courage is the only cure. It's the only cure to fear is courage.
It's courage. Yeah. Well, you see, fear is the opposite of faith. Yeah. And so if you've got faith, you won't have fear. Yeah. If you are trusting in the Lord Jesus Christ, you know, and I think as well, you see, there's such a fear of dying. There's the fear of death.
But the thing is, too, there's more to living than just being frightened of dying.
There is. There's more to living. But you see, because there's this spirit of fear, you know, and trust has gone. You sort of, people look at you sideways, you know, you sort of, and I find that, because Australia, look, we emigrated in 1969. We came with 5 children. I had another one when we got here.
How did you come? Did you come by boat? I came in 1970.
We flew. Okay. We were £10 poms. £10 poms.
She came a year before you, mate.
Yeah.
69. She just been.
I'm 70. Was I?
Oh, 70.
I was born in 66.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, well, you weren't very old when you came then.
No.
5. Yes. Yeah. And I mean, when we got off the aeroplane in Adelaide, and we saw this beautiful city, and we was in Elder Park where the Festival Theatre is. That was our billet, and honestly we're on the side of the Torrens.
Oh, was this the hostels? Yeah, that's where I went. Because Adelaide first, Glenelg.
You went there too?
Yeah, I think so. I'd have to ask my parents, but we were in the hostels in Adelaide first. We moved after that, but that's where we were.
Yeah, well, we were here 10 days, and we moved into our own house in Elizabeth Vale, on everything borrowed because our stuff was still on the high seas.
Yeah, in the tea chests.
In the tea chest, everything. So, but oh no, we just loved it.
She wasn't a whinging bomb.
No.
Neither were my parents.
No. You weren't a whinging...
No. And so, like I say, and this country and the lifestyle and the weather, everything, you know what I mean? Yeah. And and our children were sort of could go and play. You could let them go because we lived opposite Carrisbrook Park, the Old Spot Hotel, and the kids could go down the creek, and I could let them go and roam.
Can I ask you a question there, though? Like, there was an innocence when you came in 1969, but were you here when the Beaumont's children went missing?
They went missing in 1966.
Oh, in 1966. Yeah. But was the fear of their missing still...
No, there wasn't. Okay. There was no fear. There was just, there just wasn't. I mean, the kids used to walk to school, and it was just such a lovely atmosphere. It was just, and to me, this is why I'm fighting, because I'm fighting, John and I are, for our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren, for them to have a future and that freedom that we had.
That was free of that fear.
There was no fear. There was no fear. And to me, I find it so sad at what's happening. And I tell everybody, while ever I have breath in my body, I will keep fighting till I take my last breath.
I'm with her.
And John's with me.
Did you know you'd married Che Guevara?
No, I didn't. I mean, Edna...
William Wallace.
To be quite honest, Edna was quite reserved and wouldn't speak out and what have you. So
you started it?
I think I did have some effect upon it, really I did. Because being an old rough stock agent and then being real estate, I mean, I've been a people's person all my life and I've had some difficult, set-tos. But anyhow... One of the big things that you mentioned, and it made me think about our Liberal Party, do you mind if I share that story? Because what you talked about, and it really hit me, was vaccines. And this will be uncovered in what we said. So anyhow, Edna and I were very strong Liberal Party members, and in South Australia they have 16 branches. And they had an annual general meeting over at, that doesn't matter what it was, Balhana, and that was on about the 3rd of September 22, I think. Anyhow, and we knew everything was wrong. I know Scott Morrison was then a sheep in... a wolf, or how do you say it? A sheep.
He was the Liberal Party's most inconsequential leader in my life.
Yeah, he was. And he was elected in 2018, like not elected, he was
I don't know.
Got in there. So anyhow, I knew a lot of things about Scott Morrison, where he had been with the World Economic Forum from about 2019. Wow. I've got the evidence of it. I've got transcripts, and he supported the World Health Organisation controlling and I've even got him on media where he actually was interviewed in Darwin, a short clip where he was asked by a reporter and he said, yes, it should be renewed this year, 2023. Anyhow, where I'm going with this is that we went to this meeting and we didn't expect to actually speak at this meeting. And anyhow, they went through the whole program, and there would have been 100, 120 or 30 people, chock-a-block from Mount Gambier to the far north, from Kingston in the sea to the South Australian border. Yeah. All of these people at this annual general meeting, rural and regional. And there was 5 people at the head table, the President, Secretary, Treasurer, 1 MP and 1 Senator. And right towards the end of this Senator got up and spoke and said, we've got all of these pallets of vaccines. We've got to get vaccinated. And they said the Bird in Hand winery in the Adelaide Hills, they've also mandated not only their staff, but they've mandated that anyone that wants to visit them have to be vaccinated too. Isn't this good? Let's protect ourselves. Well, when I heard that, my smoke come out of my ears. So did Edna. And I'm sitting there, and Edna goes, boom, jabbed me in the ribs, and said, John, are you going to get up and speak up against this? And like all of these people, we didn't know them, and it was a big crowd. And I looked her in the eye, and what did I say?
I don't think I've got the guts.
That's what I said.
It takes courage.
Well, anyhow, I sat there and I thought, oh, John, come on, boy, you've got to be able to do it. So, in a way, I said a little prayer. I just said, Lord, give me the words to say, the courage to speak, and say who you are and where you're from and so on. So I'm just sitting there, and then, boom, she gives me another elbow in the ribs. And she says, John, if you don't get up and speak, I am going to.
Wow.
This is my wife.
Wow.
So I looked at her and I said, all right, I will. So anyhow, what you had to do is put your hand up if you wanted to say something. You know, there's only a few questions right at the end.
Yeah.
So this is a short version of it.
Yeah.
So I got up and I said, my name is John Tate from Birdwood. What I'm going to say can be regarded as controversial or perhaps even divisive, but I need to say this. Why is not the Liberal Party talking about early treatment for this virus rather than just pushing the virus?
Yeah. Pushing the vaccine.
Pushing the vaccine, sorry.
Yeah.
Pushing the vaccine. And I'm aware, and I believe a lot of other people are aware, that we have bowed our knee to the World Health Organisation, that are in control of our health, and furthermore, the World Health Organisation are in bed with China. So why aren't we talking about this? Well, you could have heard a blooming bomb drop on the pin. Couldn't hear the pin. And this is amazing though, Michael. I sat down and about a third of them clapped.
Wow.
So
they were all thinking the same.
They were, a third of them were, at least a third. What would you say?
So there's a third thinking the same, waiting for someone with courage.
Yeah, I mean...
Or a wife ready to hit you if you don't find your courage.
Well, I give her full credit. It was Edna that jabbed me twice to give me the courage to get up and stand up. I mean, I had prior, but I thought, oh, this is a bit tough, you know.
Yeah.
So, so that was the vaccine bit, and that really, really, really upset me.
Yeah.
And how much was $80 million worth, they said?
$80 million worth of vaccines that they'd bought in, and they had to get...
On pallets.
In pallet. But I'd like to share something about the Liberal Party. Being a Liberal, and my parents before me in the UK, Conservative, and we came to Australia. My first husband was Liberal, brought up Liberal all my life, Conservative.
Have we gone too long?
No.
And
anyway, to make sure it's still going.
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
I've done it before where it's shit off and I'm sitting here.
I don't know how long.
Because we were paid up members of the Liberal Party, we had voting rights. So in the January before the election, there was a pre-selection in the Barossa Valley for the seat of Schubert. That's us. And so we went along to this. And in the meantime, we'd heard that Vicky Chapman was tabling a motion in Parliament to bring us in line with all other states to legalise late-term abortion, which I was absolutely horrified about.
It's murder.
And so
Murder.
I was horrified.
So we get there, and of course, because we'd been to lots of Liberal meetings, we'd met Stephen Marshall and we'd sort of got to know him quite well. And so I saw him get out the car and I thought, right. So I ran across the lawn to speak to
He's
him.
the ex-premier.
You ran at your age?
Well, yeah, I did. Run across the lawn. And he got out the car and I said, oh, Stephen, I said, could I speak to you for a minute, please? And he looked at me. And I said to him, well, I said, I want to speak to you about the abortion bill that's been tabled on Tuesday for late term. And I said, Stephen, I'm horrified. I said... And he said, oh, Edna, you've nothing to worry about. He said, look, there will be amendments. But, you know, Michael, I failed because I should have said, well, what are the amendments? Yeah. But the way he put it to me, it was going to be okay.
He disarmed you.
He disarmed me.
And he was in a hurry, wasn't he?
And he was in a hurry to get in. Well, then the thing was brought before Parliament, and we found out who had voted for it to become law. There was only 5 of the Liberal Party had voted against it, and him and John Gardner, who was our member, for Morialta had voted for it, late-term abortion.
And Vicky Chapman.
And Vicky Chapman.
They were all high-powered.
And that was it. From that moment in my heart, I sacked the Liberal Party. I sacked them.
You hadn't sacked them yet.
But I did. Anyway, we went in April to the Norwood Town Hall for a meeting with Tony Abbott. And the place had about 300 people there. Tony walked in and he got a standing ovation. Everybody clapped him. And he went in and he got up on the platform and he spoke. And then he jumped down onto the floor and then asking if there was any questions, anything. And I put my hand up and John spoke first and a different one to others.
I got a bit of a clap.
And
Not
then
much.
They
Not
brought
much.
the microphone to me and I stood up and I told them, I said, look, I told them how old I was. I think then I was 85. And I said, I'm a mother, a grandmother, a great-grandmother. I said, and for the life of me, I cannot comprehend how they can legalise late-term abortion. I said, in my book, it's murder, and along with other things. Well, Michael, I got a standing ovation.
They all stood up and clapped her.
And
Finally got a little one.
And Tony Abbott came across to me. He really came right up to me. And
He said on the microphone, no?
yeah, on the microphone. And he said, yes. He said, it's infanticide.
Yeah, it is.
And so I spoke up there, and like I say,
How did we get here, do you think?
how did we get here?
How did we get here? But how did we get here to a point where late-term abortions are now legal in our country? How did that happen?
How could that happen? How could it?
It doesn't matter whether you're Christian or not. This little baby has gone 9 months. They've earned the right to be born. If you had an issue with it, you should have either worn a condom or maybe had an early-term abortion or a morning after pill or something like that. But not 9 months.
Yes.
Well, Michael, in my book, every child is created in the holy image of God. Yeah. And who are you to determine that life shouldn't go on? And I don't care whether it's at conception, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. It is wrong. Yeah. That baby has every right. And they'll patter out, oh, well, what if the girl was raped? Which I feel sorry for. I don't condone that. I think that's awful.
But I do think in that argument, to be honest, if they have a late-term abortion, if they surveyed, I bet it'd be a very tiny, small percentage of kids of children who would be raped. Most of them would be for other reasons.
Yes, and to me, though, why should that baby pay for that awful act? Why should the baby give up its life?
That's a pretty...
flimsy.
No. A lot of Christians wouldn't perhaps share Edna's view there. I do. We believe that God gives life and God takes life when we had our last breath. But getting off this, there's two more things I wanted to talk about the Liberal Party. What actually happened after that event at the Liberal Party, we wrote a 3-page letter to them and actually set out all of our accusations against what the Liberal Party are doing. And the two main issues were, one was that they had to issue early treatment, and the other is no mandates, there has to be freedom of choice. And what we actually said at the end of that letter, unless these things are changed within a fairly short time, we will tender our resignation from the Liberal Party. Didn't get a reply, sent it to about 30 odd. And then December that year, they had another Liberal Party meeting in the Norwood Town Hall, I think it was.
Yes.
And we'd written a letter, and I thought, at this stage, Edna and I were full on fire with, we were fired up. Our moral courage was up, and we give give all of the honour to the Lord too for that.
That's the thing. Once you stand up, you get all the armour and the weapons you need.
Yeah, you do, Michael. Anyhow, I said to myself, I'm going to tender. We decided to sack the Liberal Party, and we'd written out this letter. And anyhow, right at the end, they had a question, and I got up and I said, yes, I got one, and I wanted to make a statement, and they tried to ban me. He said, no, the secretary knew what I was going to say because I told him that I'm going to resign, and I want the right to hand my letter in publicly, so they'd have to, our letter, I mean, so they'd publicly have to minute it. And they tried to ban me, and I said, no, you're not banning me. And I just kept walking towards the table, and I had the microphone, and I said, I'm hereby tendering our resignation publicly, and I want it minuted, and walked off.
Wow.
Well, you know, I don't know, I think our kids...
Across the country, the Liberal Party is literally on its last legs.
It's decimated. And do you know what else? With the state Liberal Party and the federal, we even prayed about it. We wanted them to be torn down. And a lot of people said, but hang on, John, if you get Labor in or Greens or whatever, they're worse. But my answer to that is, no, we've got to get rid of them. They've created this evil and tyranny. That's the first step. What comes next is, so be it. So we had to get rid of them. Didn't we?
We did, and we prayed again. We did really, really pray. Thy will be done, O Lord. Thy will. Because God spoke to me, and he said that they'd been tried in the high... We put this in the letter, that they'd been tried in the highest court in heaven and been found wanting. Daniel chapter 5. And we put that in the letter, and we never got a reply.
Another, and I think I've run out of stories, but this one was very recent, and I haven't talked about our aged care problems that we had.
You should touch on that, John.
Well, because my brother-in-law went in there, it's now 3 years, and by the way, this aged care facility is terrific. All of the people are great. The carers are unbelievably wonderful. But the hierarchy I've taken on, it's that issue, not the people. And my brother...
Same in the hospitals.
And my brother-in-law's well looked after. And so I had my first one was when I knew that you had to be double jabbed. I've been going there for about 18 months, probably, from back in there. And then all of a sudden you had to be double jabbed, and you had to have a current flu.
Yeah. And a rat test.
And I didn't have any. No, not a rat test then, love. And I knew that I was going to have this confrontation. I walk in, and they even had the key that I could, you know, swipe the card and go and see my brother-in-law, because poor fellow was in lockdown with his dementia. So anyhow, they asked for my evidence of that, and I said, no, I'm not vaccinated, never will be, won't be. And no, I'm not current flu. Well, you can't go in, which I knew. And I said, well, I will not leave here until you bring him out to me, because I can put him in the car and drive him somewhere. And anyhow, cut a long story short, they went and got the manageress. Beautiful, lovely people from India, you know, Indian descent. And we sat on the bench and talked for a while, and, you know, after she talked, she said, well, what we can do, we will bring him out to you, and you'll have to sit outside or put him in the car or whatever, which I did for nearly a year.
Wow. And
took him out to pubs and places all over the joint. And I said to her, you have Indian descent and you're from India? And she said, yes. And I said, do you know anything about the state called Uttar Pradesh?
Yeah.
And before I could even answer, she said, yes, I know about that, John. And they've handled COVID because of early treatment. That was her.
Ivermectin.
Ivermectin.
Yeah.
And Yeah, so I said, you know about it. And then I said, but you've been double jabbed, have you, to keep your job? I said to her. She said, yes, that's right. So anyhow, that was the first one. But the second one was a massive one, this one. They had, going back, would have been about probably nearly a year after that, or probably about a year. It was just over Christmas, and I got into the new year and they had this another massive lockdown. And sometimes Bob couldn't even get out of his room, my brother-in-law. And I'm saying, this is not right. And I kept ringing up, can I come and see him? Can you bring him out to me? You know, I couldn't go in, but can you bring him out? And they said, no, no, no. And I said to Edna this day, I said, I'm sick of this. I'm going to tell them I'm demanding that they bring him out. So I ring them up and they put me through. You know, I said it to the receptionist and she said, no, you can't do it. And I said, put me through the manageress, which was the same lady. And I said to her that I'm going to park my car. Where you pick it up, I'll lock it. I'll get out. I won't leave until you bring him out to me. And furthermore, call the police. And if necessary, I'll have all of this videoed. And I'll do a protest in front of your aged care facility. So she said, no, you can't do it. Anyhow, next day, it was... Because we normally go in 11, don't I? Next day, it was about 9 o'clock in the morning, I get this phone call from another lady that is the head shirang of this aged care facility. By the way, really good. I'm not knocking the service and everything. Anyhow, she rings up and says, oh, I understand you want to take your brother-in-law out. Where are you going to take him? I said, got no idea. I take him somewhere in the Adelaide Plains or the Adelaide Hills and we go for a pub and have a meal, and it's the only time he has any joy. And she said, well, there's hot spots everywhere. Where are you going to take him? And I said, I don't know. I'm going to just take him somewhere. I didn't care about hot spots and all of that BS. And you know what she said to me? Well, you know, legally we can't stop you. Wow. Legally. Directives only, Michael. Yeah. Another directive. And I also...
And you're obedient to the people with fear.
Yes. But what I did wrong, I also served a notice on them of malfeasance, just a one letter. And up the top, I said, this is a warning only. Well, anyhow, that went to my nephews and nieces that weren't on my page. Well, all hell broke loose over that. Yeah, it did hit the fan. But anyhow, I'm okay with them now. We've worked through all of that. And so that was one. But the more recent one, when they stopped the mandates, because we had written to them too about getting rid of the mandates recently. And again, I don't know whether it was us or not, but anyhow, they dropped the mandates to have 2 jabs and the flu, but then they you had to have a rat test and wear a mask. And I said, no, I'm not doing either. So I wrote another letter and said I refused to have a rat test, I refused to wear a mask. And I went to it, and as I'm driving there for about a half an hour to get there, and I talked to the receptionist, told her who it was. They know me backwards in there over 3 years. And I said, I've got a letter here. I want you to just deliver it to the manageress, if you wouldn't mind. So I walked in, gave her the letter, stayed there for about a quarter of an hour, 20 minutes waiting. And I started to walk around, and they said, oh, you can't walk around, you know, you got to stay here. Because, you know, I didn't have a rat test and I wouldn't wear a mask. And she came out, almost up, and I said, oh, lovely to see you again. Do you mind if we go into your room and talk? Yeah, that's fine. So she took me into her office, shut the door, And I said to her, it just came to me, I said, you know, you don't have to wear that mask to protect me, but if you think you need to wear the mask to protect yourself, keep it on, but if not, feel free to take it off. So she took the mask off. Wow. And then she said, I've read your letter, John, and yes, we're going to give you an exemption. You can come in, sit down at the cafe. As long as you sit down at the cafe, we'll bring Bob out and you can have a meal with him. But you're not allowed to walk around. Yeah. So the moral of the story is, Michael, there's no COVID when you're sitting down, but if you're standing up walking around, there's COVID everywhere. Yeah. So that was another one. But
can I ask one more question, because you're heading towards your 90s? What did you think when you heard of that 95 or 97, I hear she was now, woman in New South Wales who was tasered? Oh. And I'm talking about from a man's point of view. You know, you hear that male officer. I'm asking, specifically asking
I believe that they should be jailed.
Because in your early days, even right up until like your 50s, have you ever heard of that?
No.
From a man to an old woman?
No. You know, this is funny. I don't believe in capital punishment, but I believe in corporal.
Yeah.
I believe they should be whipped.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
What do you think? Or don't you believe with it?
Oh, I absolutely do, and I think it was shocking.
How do you think
That poor lady.
But not even that. One, she couldn't have had a steak knife, because if she in dementia, there's no way you'd have a steak knife, because I used to work in nurse camps. But the other thing too is that he would have had to have been hired, and it's very hard to become a police officer. So how did someone get through all their training who had within him the capacity to taser a 95-year-old woman twice?
Yeah, I just think, well, you know, if you don't believe in God, in a way, I believe you can do any damn thing. I mean, that's a pretty big statement. But there's no boundaries, you see.
Like hell has no floor.
Yeah. Hell, there's no floor. Yeah.
Absolutely. And another incident that happened this year, I wasn't very well, and it was a Sunday, and I said to John, I really do need to go somewhere and get, I can't sort of tell you exactly because it's a little bit personal, you know, but I had an incident that I really needed to get a doctor to check me out.
And it was on a Sunday.
And it was a Sunday. So I said to John, would you take me to the local hospital? Because I really do need to be checked out. I was a bit concerned.
Just, excuse me, Ed. The local hospital, they closed Gumaraka, Mount Pleasant, and all of these little hospitals, and they only kept bigger ones open like Mount Pleasant. Go ahead.
Mount Barker. And Manham.
Yeah.
And Manham. So we get in the car and we go to the hospital, and of course we get into the emergency, and they're all behind a plastic sheet, you know, window, all masked up. And John and I walk in, and we're not masked. And everybody that comes in
was chock-a-block, actually,
wearing a mask. And we went up to the window, gave my name, and said, you know, I would like to see a doctor. So we went and sat down, and then the nurse came out to take my blood pressure. She took that, went back in, then she came back out again, and she said, oh, Edna, we need to do a rat test. So I said to her, no, you're not. I said, because I'm not having one. She said, well, why? I said, because I don't want one, and I'm not having one. And so that's it. So she went, oh. So she turned around and went back in, and within half an hour, this other nurse, I think she was a bit above, and she says, oh, Edna, why won't you have a rat test? I said, because I don't want one. And I said, let me tell you, I said, that is my choice. I said, you know what? It's called freedom. I said, and I am exercising my freedom of choice, and I am not having a rat test. So she, just like that, I said it to her. not nastily, but firmly. So she turned around and went back in. And then about another hour passed. And
There's 2 hours we waited there.
we could see all these people going in. So John went up to the window and he said, "Oh, very polite, could I ask a question, please?" So she said yes. So he said, "Well, we've been here now 2.5 hours. We've seen all these people going in. And is it because my wife's not having a rat test and we won't wear a mask? Is that how we're getting passed by?" And so she said, oh, she didn't know what to say to him. And then she said, "Oh no, it's because of triage." Well, we didn't understand triage. Anyway, within 10 minutes, we were in. A doctor came and got me.
This is interesting, this bit.
And he took me into his room and he had a mask on. And I said to him, I said, "Look," I said, "you don't have to wear that mask for me." I said, "I'm not jabbed. I've never been jabbed. I've no intention of being." And I said, "And I won't have a rat test and I won't wear a mask and I won't QR code." He said to me, "You know what?" He said, "You are a breath of fresh air." And he took the mask off and we sat and we talked and he was lovely. And I realised quietly, and see, he was on our page. But he had children, he'd had to have 2 to keep his job. But he said, "I'm skating on thin ice," because he said, "I'll refuse to administer the injections." And he was speaking very quiet. And anyway, he asked me like what I'd gone for, and I said to him, "Oh, by the way," I said, "I'd love my husband to meet you." I said, "But they wouldn't allow him to come in with me." So I said, can I ring him and get him to come in?
I was sitting in the car.
He was out in the car. So he said, "Oh yeah, by all means." So I rang John and I said, "John, the doctor said you can come in." I said, "And I would really love you to meet him." I said, "Because John is on our page." So he came in and of course they had a big talk. And then the doctor examined me and to find out what my problem was. And because I was in quite a lot of bodily pain, he said, "Oh, I think I'm going to organise a MRI." And so he was lovely. He took me down. He said, "Look, I'll take you down there." He took me down there, introduced me to the registrar and stayed with me while I had this MRI. And then he said, I'm going to get a room for you. I want you to stay until I get the results back." He said, "Is that all right? Will you, it might be midnight." I said, "Yeah, no problem." I said, "We're fine." Took me in, put me in this room, and he came back and he sat on the bed and he just sat and talked to us.
Beautiful.
Just a beautiful doctor, beautiful man. And
unbelievable, really, Michael. I believe that there are so many people out there that have compromised their thinking just to keep a job. And I understand that. I truly do. Because people think that are on our page that we're the heroes, but no, we're down here to people who sacrifice their job and give, like Mark Nugent, for argument's sake, he's a classic example, with 2 children that are fostered. And he was in handicap care. And, people like that, they're my heroes. Really are.